Honourable Ms Selwood.
Thank you, Mr President. To begin, I'm going to get teary. I'm going to warn you all now. To begin, I acknowledge that we stand here on Kaurna Yatta, and I live on the banks of the Nunki-Paringa River on the lands of the Parramatta people. This always has been and always will be Aboriginal land. I honour all First Nations people, including those here today, and have the utmost respect for their living culture, history and continuing connection to land, water and place. I once heard Kaurna and Narungga man Uncle Mickey O'Brien say, "To know your place, you have to walk your country." I think of this every time I walk or go for a run. There is so much history and culture here that we have yet to learn. We can learn from the waterways, the land, the animals, the vegetation, and we can learn from the people who have cared for this country for millennia. But beyond just learning and walking, we have to act. Allyship with First Nations people is more than acknowledgement of country. It shows up in our actions, and we need to be constantly checking our conduct to see if we are acting in a way that is truthful in the spirit of reconciliation and honours the sovereignty of First Nations peoples. I will not shy away from the fact that our country and our state as we know it today were born on the back of a genocide. We need to tell the truth about our history, we need to walk alongside First Nations people, and we need to act to make right the wrongs of the past. We need to ensure we are addressing the injustices that First Nations people still suffer as a result of colonial structures, particularly in our health system, our justice system, and our education system. Being a Member of Parliament was never something I imagined. I'm here because of the failures of successive governments. Governments and elected representatives, both Labor and Liberal, have failed to deal with climate change, failed to deal with inequality, and failed to commit to a peaceful world. In an ideal world, there would have been elected members representing my views, acting on the will of the people and making decisions democratically. I could then have been content to cast my vote at election time, knowing that our elected representatives were taking care of it. Sadly, I have not felt that way for a very long time. The two-party system has entrenched power and made our representatives lose sight of what's really important. I'm a doer, someone who believes in action, in standing what you believe in and doing something about it. So here I am. While standing here wasn't something I'd planned for my future, I feel incredibly privileged to do so. Privilege comes with responsibility. We have a responsibility to centuries of ancestors, activists, workers, volunteers and change makers that have fought for a better future. Their campaigning and activism have led us to rights and privileges that I have experienced and sometimes taken for granted. The right to vote, the right to protest, the right to a weekend, and so many rights that I cannot name them all. Our privilege also comes with a responsibility to the generations yet to come. As a parent, this is always in my mind. Our decisions have long-term implications. We create the future with every choice we make, every action we take. This is a time for us to be good custodians of our planet and our communities. And I encourage all of us to make decisions that are not just for the here and now, but for the future that we hold in our hands. It is customary in these speeches to talk about yourself, to explain people your history and how it brings you here. I'm not one who likes to talk about myself very much, and I'm not here for me. I'm here because there are a lot of people that share my view of the world. People who believe corporations and billionaires shouldn't profit while the majority struggle to afford food, medications and education. People who believe we shouldn't be destroying our planet for human greed. People who believe that we shouldn't support the bombing of innocent people in Lebanon, Palestine and Iran. How can anyone look at the images of war coming out of the Middle East and feel anything other than compassion for people who are being bombed and displaced? How can we turn a blind eye to that? How can we ignore the fact that here in South Australia we are manufacturing parts for weapons that will end up bombing a mother and her baby in her home? What sort of level of dissociation is required to stop feeling that? And here in South Australia, how can we seriously say we're doing a good job when corporations and billionaires enjoy huge profits while the people who work for them are paying more tax with worse conditions and are struggling to afford housing or groceries? Ask any 4-year-old if a few people should have a lot, well, many people have very little, and they'll say that's unfair. They are right, it is deeply unfair. If a 4-year-old can see it, why can't the people in power? And for this beautiful planet we live on, here's where I'll get more personal. I live in the Adelaide Hills, and in 2019 I watched a fire rip through my town. It was the biggest bushfire that Adelaide Hills had seen since Ash Wednesday. 80 of our friends and neighbours lost their homes. Our house was saved by our neighbour and the CFS, but our backyard was black for weeks. Thank you. Fencing and trees were gone, and our kids' toys were melted amongst the burnt-out logs. Our community set up a recovery centre long before the government stepped in, and it's now used as a model for other community-led recovery projects around the world. We were able to share water, generators, equipment and food. We met nightly for community barbecues, where we could grieve together. We were able to fulfil everyone's needs by working collectively. That is the role of government, to collectively solve problems and redistribute resources where they are most needed. If the community can make it happen, the government certainly can. I volunteered in the Community Recovery Centre for weeks after the fires, and one moment replays in my mind often. A middle-aged man walked in, covered in ashes, holes in his clothes from the embers. He sat down in front of me and cried. He had lost everything: home, shedding, fencing. He was sad for what he'd lost, but he was also destitute. He was living on little money and had made a hard choice: to keep paying for medical bills and feed for his animals instead of taking out insurance. He had lost everything and had no safety net. He couldn't see a way out. This is the human cost of climate change. It's here and now, and we can no longer ignore it. Scientists have told us for over 50 years that as the planet warmed, there would be more bushfires, more floods, more droughts. Instead of treating this as an emergency, we've let our communities down. We've allowed them to get burnt out or flooded, and the people who pay the heaviest price are those who are already struggling. I had solar panels on my roof. I had been diligent about recycling. I had planted trees. I had taken public transport to avoid using the car. None of that was ever going to protect my community from a warming planet. Corporations and governments have used clever marketing to transfer this problem onto individuals, to avoid people talking about the reality. The biggest polluters are corporations digging up the fossil fuels and burning it. Our systems are designed to keep polluters polluting, keep profits growing, and keep greed at the centre of everything we're doing. Those systems aren't working for the people or the planet. We need new systems. If we don't start treating climate change like an emergency, we won't be able to help people like the man who cried in front of me. We won't be able to protect the most vulnerable from the impacts. This all sounds like doom and gloom, and to be honest, a lot of the time my feelings swing between rage at the system, sadness about the path we're collectively choosing, and shame about how we treat so many communities. I don't ever want to stop caring about any of these problems I've spoken about, or to turn away from them. To stop caring makes you turn inward. It makes you feel like the problems are someone else's to deal with. These are all of our problems, collectively. I'm conscious that I've used the words collectively, together, and community a lot during this speech so far. These words are where I find hope. Collectively solving problems, building community, and doing it together are the key ingredients to a vibrant future. I worked in the theatre for many years, and before rehearsals, an orchestra will gather and they'll start to warm up. The musicians sit in their individual chairs, all playing different parts of the score in different keys. It's a big, mushy sound. There's clashes of notes. It's loud, but it's far from beautiful. If you were only to pay attention to one of the musicians and tune out the rest, each individual player would sound pleasant. But a bunch of individuals in a room rehearsing separately is never going to be a work of art. But as soon as the orchestra tunes, they turn into a collective. The conductor takes the podium, they start to play, and it's transcendent. As individuals, our lives can be nice, but it's only when we come together that we can create something bigger than ourselves, something truly beautiful. This moment in history is calling us to be bigger than ourselves. We face many challenges, but here and now we get to choose the world that we live in. The world I want to live in is one where we have compassion for each other. I want to live in a world where we share resources. I want to live in a world where our government prioritises housing the homeless, feeding the hungry and tending to the sick. I want to live in a world where we stand up to international bullies when they start bombing cities and towns, where we call out hatred, where we celebrate diversity, and where we include all people in decision-making. I want to live in a world where people have equitable opportunities to participate, regardless of their gender, cultural background, neurodivergence, physical abilities, economic background, or sexuality. This world I describe is not only possible, it's achievable. The only way to solve our current crises and create the world we want to live in is to think outside of our individuality and act collectively. Instead of serving the interests of an individual developer, let's prioritise providing a safe, affordable home for anyone who needs one. Instead of serving Santos's profit margins, let's stop burning fossil fuels that contribute to the fires, floods, droughts and algal blooms that affect all of us. Instead of throwing money at international golf tournaments or high-rise office towers on public land, let's make it easier for everyone to afford their groceries. If we think bigger than the individual, we can build a fairer future that supports everyone's needs instead of allowing the rich to become richer. The fact that I'm standing here is the result of a huge collective effort, and many of them are here today. Every weekend, hundreds of people volunteer in our movement. They give up countless hours of their individual lives to be part of something bigger. They believe in hope, they believe in a bright future, and they can see it is possible. My biggest thank you goes to each and every one of the volunteers. Your dedication and energy has led me to this moment right here. Progressive movements around the world are growing, and now is our time to do the same. I'm looking forward to building this movement with you all over the next 8 years, building our power and eventually overthrowing the systems that maintain the status quo. I need to say thank you to Dominic Muggovan, Malvina Vera and Sean Cullen McCaskill. I've tried numerous times to find the right ways to tell you all what your support has meant to me, and I never quite get it right, so I simply say thank you from the deepest part of my heart. To Genevieve Dawson-Scott, our candidate for Hyson, thank you for your heart, energy and hope. Thank you for being a true partner on this journey. Thank you for lifting me up when I needed it. And thank you for the community you and your team built in the Adelaide Hills. This is what our future could look like. To every one of the Greens candidates, thank you for being the public face of our movement, even though it can be daunting, and thank you for your leadership in each of your communities. To those who stood by me through the most difficult times, Cassie and Lisa, thank you. To the arts community, thank you for giving me belonging, the tools of collaboration and a supportive environment where ideas are openly discussed and considered without judgment. Until I entered politics, I had no idea how valuable that was. To the Honourable Robert Sims, thank you for the opportunity to come and work in this unusual place and peer behind the curtain. And thank you for the many opportunities you've provided along the way. I'm looking forward to working with you. To Senator Barbara Pocock, thank you for your generous and caring advice when I've needed it. I have and continue to learn so much from you. To the State Office staff, campaign team and Greens parliamentary staff, thank you for all you do to build our movement. I'm looking forward to working with you in the next chapter. Thank you to Alira Mackenzie-Williams, who is joining my team. Thanks for making the jump, but also thanks for understanding me more than many other people do. To my family, it hasn't been easy getting here. Our lives before the fires were adventurous. We had almost nothing, but we turned it into a lot. Our priority was experiencing this beautiful world, building memories and connection. The fire and COVID changed everything. Our priorities shifted, and the journey has required me to take so much time away from you all. Thank you for believing I could do this. Thank you for putting up with my absences. Thank you for being supportive even when it got really hard. Thank you for being my sun and my moon. Thank you for being the ground that holds me up and the sky to reach towards. To finish up, I want to be really clear. I'm not here to become part of this system. I'm here because I don't believe this system works. I'm not here to be polite. I'm not here to make people feel comfortable. I'm here because we need a new way of doing things, a system that serves people and planet instead of greed and growth. I'm here for the people out in their streets, in their homes and the workplaces who try to get their message inside these seemingly impenetrable stone walls. I will meet people on the streets, I will go to their communities and amplify their voices in this place. I will walk shoulder and shoulder with those who want to build a new system, one where people have the power. That is my promise. Thank you.